Welcome back to the Trainerize Collective. My name is Farhad Ghulam Hussain. I'm the VP of Partnerships and Enterprise here at ABC Trainerize. And in this upcoming conversation, we're going to dive into a topic that's one of the hottest in the industry, AI and how AI is changing the fitness game. In case you haven't heard of it, AI stands for artificial intelligence. AI in fitness can include everything from ChatGPT to smart wearables, biometric data analysis, virtual reality coaching, and predictive analytics for injury prevention or performance enhancement. To chat about this today, I want to welcome two distinguished guests, Tim Jones, the CEO of Precision Nutrition, and Daniel Stott, the CEO and co-founder of Fortis. So please, guys, go ahead and tell everyone a little bit about yourselves. Maybe Daniel, let's start with you.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for that, Fad. So I'm Dan from Fortis, and we specifically help trainers and coaches around the world grow their business specifically through marketing and sales, predominantly in the online space, although we do help people with their in-person businesses also.
Awesome. Yeah, super important, that whole business side of fitness. And Tim, maybe you can intro yourself as well.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, appreciate you having us here. This is a cool opportunity. This is a topic I absolutely love talking about. So you might have to cut me off a couple of times as we get into this. But for those who I haven't met, which is likely going to be a bunch of you, Timothy Jones, CEO of Precision Nutrition. And for those who don't know us, we provide three main things. So we have certifications in the nutrition coaching space, in the health coaching space, and more recently, sleep, stress management, and recovery space. So we have kind of a suite of certifications. We have nutrition coaching software, and we have a bunch of ongoing education for health and fitness coaches in all those areas. And we also do direct-to-consumer coaching. And that's kind of unique for the industry in that we use everything we actually have because we work with real clients every day, and we include that in our certifications. And as you can imagine, how consumers are using AI in this space are especially around nutrition questions and things like that, and now coaches. It's having a pretty big impact on us. So we'll talk more about that today for sure.
For sure. We're gonna dive into all of that. So actually, let's start by diving into the question that's on everyone's mind, right? Which is AI going to make personal trainers and online coaches redundant? We don't think so, right? Often clients buy into personal coaches and not just coaching. Like as efficient, easy, and cost-effective as AI can be, personal connections that trainers and other coaches build with their clients are hard to kind of replicate with online tools. Coaches help keep their clients engaged, motivated, coming back for more. So they're a really important part of the equation, in our opinion. But I'd love to hear your take on this. So maybe Tim, let's start with you since you're diving in already here.
Yeah. So we've been asked this question a lot because, as you can imagine, you can jump online, you could get nutrition programming. You can now jump on ChatGPT and get nutrition programming. But the interesting thing, Farhad, is I don't really believe that the biggest challenge has ever been what to do. I think by and large, people know I need to eat better, I need to move more, I need to improve my sleep. So you have to ask yourself, what's the question? Like, okay, that's actually not happening. We've got another medium for people to get that information, and that's awesome. But what we've learned, we've been doing this for almost 20 years, is that what helps clients meaningfully change their lives, have a transformative impact, though, is really in and around the behaviors. And when do I start to actually change my behaviors is when there's an individual who I respect, who I'm looking up to, who actually demonstrates deep, meaningful care for me. They care about me. And if you sit back and you think about what incentive do people, so many people feel alone in today's world, or they're struggling. So even if they have all kinds of people around them, they're still struggling. They feel alone. They feel isolated. I now have an individual who's paying attention to me. The term we use is they actually see me. AI Maybe we'll be able to do that in the future. And honestly, it'll be awesome if it does, but it's not there now. And it doesn't look like it's going to be there for a while. It can actually help us as coaches see our clients more deeply and spend more time focusing on them and their needs. That's how we think about it. I don't, I think it's an enhancement as a tool, but as a replacement, I can't see my way through to that yet.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think there's a lot of information out there. You're right. It's easily accessible, but that key ingredient of having that person, that can kind of take you through, walk you through, and motivate you along the way, so important. But maybe Daniel, what's your take on this question?
Not be surprised to know, completely agree with both of you guys. I think there's some interesting trends, like the age of information going back 50 years when we were given information in a very binary fashion. More and more and more information is available to us over the past several decades, and yet more and more and more people are getting unhealthier and
Yeah.
unhealthier and unhealthier. And also, the number of personal trainers and coaches in the fitness industry is also going up at the same time. Those three trends are all happening at the same time, which ties into your point, Tim. It's like there's obviously something to do with the amount of information and the inability to sort of distill it into actionable takeaways that people can put into their lives, because there are so many ways you can do things now, and everyone has an opinion of how to do something. You could follow 10 different accounts on social media or subscribe to 10 different podcasts, and you'll probably get 500 different ways. You've got someone saying you need to drink more water, less water, do this, more steps, less steps. It's hard, and actually I think the benefit for the trainers and coaches is the more information that's out there, the more confusing it gets, and the more necessary someone who can just put an arm around your shoulder and say, hey, I'm a human, you're a human, we've been going back hundreds of thousands of years connecting with each other, I'm going to show you the way. And that's why I think we're in a really positive space, because it just allows trainers and coaches to actually do a much better job, because the information available to them is so much more vast, so they can do a better job. And the other thing I'll just sort of like layer on top of that is we're lazy human beings, and we're just so lazy. The idea of going out and trying to figure it all out ourselves, like I've done it. I mean, I've lived and breathed fitness. I know exactly how workouts can be programmed, and I know exactly what I should do from a nutrition perspective. The idea of sitting there and distilling it all, and I want someone to say, Dan, you just need to do this today and that tomorrow and that, and this is going to get you to your goal. And all those things combined together, it's really exciting time, I think, for trainers and coaches.
For sure. I mean, there is a lot of information that, can help coaches find the right way to approach any sort of program now, right? But there's also a psychology aspect. So even Tim, when you're touching on the behavior part, I think that's a tremendous impact that coaches have as well, right? Is like understanding the psychology of the person they're working with and really
Mhm.
trying to impact change by grabbing all these tools and all this information to formulate something that works for that
Mhm.
person or that individual, right? Um,
100%.
but so then it kind of becomes about like whether or not to use AI at all, right? There are advantages, there's disadvantages. So in your opinion, like what are some of the biggest advantages and biggest challenges that AI presents? And maybe Daniel, let's start with you on this one.
Sure, I'm sure Tim can probably go wild on this area because it's going to tie right into the product. I think, I mean, there's two. We look at the world of a personal trainer and a coach, and in particular the ones who are self-employed, which is a huge majority around the world. And there's two components to your business. There is the delivery of your service and how you work with your clients and how incredibly important that is. And I will definitely hand over to Tim to go into detail on AI in that space. For us, we're looking at it from like how they run their business. So what do they do? How can they leverage AI to make themselves better business owners, be more efficient, be more effective, reach more clients, achieve more from a sales and marketing perspective? So for us, it's the automation of tasks that are very, very manual and tedious and don't add value to the client's world. The more efficient a coach can get, the more time they have. And that goes with content creation, it goes with check-ins, it goes with programming, it goes with everything that they do. So they can spend more and more time being human with their clients, which is obviously the differentiator between a coach and AI is being human. More time being human and less time doing a lot of the dull viewed admin type stuff, so they can spend more time being creative. So I definitely look at it as they are the elements to sort of get rid of or minimize those sort of more administrative and tedious tasks so they can focus on the other areas of their business.
I love that. So it's like a tool to basically take your time back, right? And allow you to focus on human connection. I love it. Love it. Tim, what do you think?
Yeah. If I start with some of the advantages, completely agree, Dan. As we're kind of working through some of this stuff here, is as we sit back and says like, how can I take as much possible time and attention and put it on the needs of the client? How do I help them feel cared for? And there's so many other tasks as a coach that take my time, that take my attention, whether it comes from responding back to emails or developing marketing content or reviewing a coaching call or trying to analyze some new study that's come out. You have all these different tasks, and none of which I just said is take time on the client or talk to the client. All these are all other tasks, and AI is now giving you ability to reduce the amount of time that you spend on all those activities by a massive factor, at least half, if not more. That is a massive advantage for a coach. I'd say some other ones are, for me personally too, I wouldn't even just say a coach, but as a company leader, as a thought partner, in terms of access to expertise. I jump into a GTP and talk to Socrates. I could talk to the people who wrote motivational interviewing. You could talk to people who you could talk to Einstein. I know it's kind of silly, but the point being is you can talk to a consultant who's been at McKinsey for 20 years, and this allows you to get a level of thought partnership, access to expertise to help you understand which questions should I be asking. What's the most important? Like everything's important, it seems like in the world, but I know really what's the most important? What should I focus on with this specific client? Providing a client profile. And so I found myself, you just get in there. Hey, I've got a friend that is struggling with X, Y, Z. What do you recommend? Why do you recommend that? What would the top experts say about this? And so beyond just efficiency, you think about the capabilities you can now bring to bear to help your clients, to help grow your business. Like these things kind of go hand in hand. And so now you have this access to these tools that help you do so many different things so much faster so that you can focus much more time, attention, and provide more quality expertise to your clients. Disadvantage wise, it takes time and practice to use well. I think, classic media stuff, you can just jump in there and you can type in a couple words. It's like anything. What you put in is what you get out. And the learning, there is a learning curve there. What I call that a disadvantage, I guess that's like for anything, training, eating, anything you're learning. I think that's certainly a perceived disadvantage is the fact that people don't immediately get great results, but it's generally what you put in, you get out. And it's still struggling. This is still, I think, interestingly, we're talking today. I think GTP is 1 today, 1 year old today, and for a 1-year-old, it can do some crazy stuff, but it also does some crazy stuff. It goes off the rails a little bit, but again, it's going to grow. It's going to get better. It's going to get better. It's going to get better. So I think, that's some of the disadvantages and some of the other ones that can, to Dan's point a little bit earlier on, if we're lazy, it can allow us to be a little bit lazier in ways that aren't always productive for us or help us provide kind of the best. If you can type something in quickly and you use that as your first answer, not much different than Google, but now you've got something right there, cut and paste. That might not be the best way to approach things.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think, and again, I think you're coming back to this idea of it being a tool, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you literally get out of it what you put into it.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's interesting, right? Because I was watching something on Chat GPT and this GPT-4, the ability to create your own sort of personas in there. And it's kind of like what you said, you can speak to Socrates. And I've heard stories of people actually going on YouTube and uploading thousands of hours of video and creating their persona of that person and asking it questions and learning, right? So you can really kind of dial into your niche that way as well, by building a mentor and asking that mentor questions, which is interesting. But so on that topic, actually, AI kind of disrupting things in a number of ways, right? Everything from wearable technology to kind of movement pattern analysis, biometric data analysis, nutrition planning, and more. Like Tim, your company, Precision Nutrition, is currently running an 8-week course, right?
yep.
AI boot camp for health and fitness coaches, I believe it's called, where students can learn the ins and outs of artificial intelligence as it relates to our industry. So basically, what are some of the trends that you're seeing in general, and which ones are you most excited about?
Yeah, from a trend standpoint, so I'll take it from a consumer trend standpoint and from a coach's trend standpoint. So I actually, my impression is that consumers adopted it faster than coaches, and I think obvious rationale is you could get information really really quickly, like what should I be eating, what exercise can I do, those sorts of things. It just became a new channel to do that through. And so from that standpoint, see a lot more people asking those different sorts of questions. Then it evolved to recipe, like, oh, I want a recipe. Oh, I've got these foods. And then it evolved to, some crazier things. Take a picture of the fridge and then say, hey, can you give me a recipe? So there's some really cool things you can do there based on what I've got in my fridge right now. So I think the consumer adoption we saw happened faster. And then on the coaching side, some of the trends we started to see, and we started one obviously participate in those trends and lead some of those trends, is first and foremost using it for making content. So making compelling content in order to get their voice and get their presence out into the world. And this was always a challenge for a lot of coaches. And I love the fact that it reduced the barrier to actually get themselves out there. That was always a challenge. Now, that's also created an opportunity in the fact that what we were talking about earlier on is what you get in, what you get out. Hey, can you write me something on X? And that's all you write, and then you post it. Well, that's easy. You still need to do high quality work. You need to differentiate. It's going to take more reps, more work with GTP, but using it for content creation was the first major trend that we saw. And then from there, starting to see people use it in deeper ways in terms of looking at studies. So taking a PDF, uploading a PDF, and asking it to kind of provide analysis or different things along those lines. Started to see a little bit more analysis, those sorts of things. I would say, yeah, for coaches, those were the main things that I saw. More now in our course, where we've gone beyond those things because people are already all doing those things. So I can, I'll touch on that a little bit differently. I'd say the last thing is people are actually starting to have dialogue with GTP, or not only GTP, but there's some other Pi.ai is another one where it can be used for support and almost as a friend or somebody to talk to, which is quite fascinating to see where that goes and how that works. And that's another one that we're just kind of starting to pay attention to see how that can be used. But yeah, I'd say those are the things that pop for me.
Yeah. That last one, I mean, that I feel like that could be a little dangerous too. I don't know, just because uh, that's kind of like taking away from that human connection aspect again, right? And yeah, so I guess Dan, from your side of things, like when you're looking at building the PT businesses, and originally it was built on that one-on-one in-person connection. But there's been a shift in the past few years where more and more trainers are offering online coaching and using a one-to-many approach through social media, right? So what are some trends you're seeing?
Yeah. At the risk of sounding a bit old school, maybe there'll be a snippet of this gets played back in 10 years. I know those famous ones from the early internet days that often go around. That famous one of the Blockbuster talking about Netflix will never work. Um, my what we're seeing, and what we upwards of 1,000 coaches in sort of, I guess, by virtue tens of thousands of clients. It sort of was a thing when it came out. It was all really exciting, and everyone was on ChatGPT all the time. And we, from all the conversations that we have, that it's still there, it's still communicated, but it's sort of like the thing that we've seen is that you mentioned it a few times, Tim, about you get out what you put in. And if you go in and you don't really get any value and it's not embedded in what you do every single day, it's easy to forget about, and it's easy to just give up on it and just move on. And that's the sort of like the trend that we've seen, is that it's there, and sometimes something will crop up that's like really exciting and people will like a bit of a moth to a flame and go back, and then realize that it's really hard work. I'm speaking from personal experience. It's really hard to leverage it in a really good way. Quick wins are quite easy, but to really master it, you have to be very intentional and spend a lot of time asking the right questions and the right prompts and getting the right responses. And patience is a virtue in the fitness industry that I believe is maybe not as strong in other industries like engineering and so on and so forth. So we've seen it, and so I think it's definitely there, but from a trend perspective, you're right. If I had the move to online coaching it's been like meteoric. I mean, the what surprises me now is when we speak to people who haven't yet started to build an online element to their business. Um, and whether it's sort of like having a hybrid approach, so your in-person clients, having programs for them to follow. I think the biggest advantage of that, we can talk about the revenue and the number of clients and all of those things which it unlocks for a trainer and a coach, which is great. But the biggest thing is they can now have an impact on someone's entire life. So previously you would train someone for an hour, maybe once a week, maybe twice a week, and then they would leave, and then it's like goodbye, and you would just like hope that did whatever it is that they could have gone out and had kebabs and pizzas for the next 3 days, and the ability for you to sort of like help them holistically end to end wasn't really there. Whereas with online coaching, with all of the tracking software and the wearables, you can now actually much better help someone achieve a goal, because what they're eating every day, how many steps they're doing, what their workouts are, you can program things for them. So as a coach now online, you have a much better chance of getting this person to their end result. And, we see much better transformations for people who are having an online element, because there's much less room for error. Whereas if you just rock up for an hour a week, who knows what's happening the other 6 days. So that trend of online coaching for the client has been beneficial, and then unlocking that as a way for trainers to be able to work with people outside of their geography, to be able to work with people without trading time for money. I mean, it's one of the quickest ways to cap your income is to trade time for money, and then you're in an arms race on how much you can charge. Whereas if you can uncap that and now work with more people, which online coaching presents them an opportunity to do. So that trend is phenomenal, and I think has seen a meteoric rise and will continue to grow and grow and grow. But keeping that in-person element in some capacity, whether it's a community, whether it's we're seeing a big rise in in-person events that are being run by trainers and coaches, whether it's like run groups or community events or Christmas parties. So as long as that human bit's there, I think the online bit is just going to grow and grow.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think it comes down to tools again, right? Like all of these are just new tools, right? This online coaching piece is a tool, right? It's to enable that in-person connection. It's to enable a person to train more people, increase bandwidth, give back time, increase revenue, all of these things. But again, it's a tool, right? Similar to AI, again, another tool. But in both of these areas, you sort of get in what you put in, right? So, and so let's give some tips if you guys have any here. So, how coaches can use AI to their advantage, basically, right? So whether it's for marketing, program design, client engagement, or simply just making their tasks more efficient. So Daniel, while you're kind of talking about this, like from what you've seen in the industry, can you give some examples of how PTs might use AI?
Yeah, I mean, if I was sat right now in a trainer's shoes, what I would do is I would write down on a piece of paper all the things, piece of paper or online if you want to, whatever method, and all the things that you do every day and bucket them into things that give you energy and things that zap your energy. So if dealing with your finances zaps your energy, put it in the downward energy. Coaches want to have a fulfilling and happy existence. So don't outsource the things that you love doing. If you love doing check-ins, great, keep doing them. If you hate creating content, put that in the energy detractor list. When you have that list, take that and find ways for AI to sort of take that off your hands, whether it's taking it off entirely or just bit by bit. And that's a really quick way of get sort of using AI in a way that benefits you as a person, not just the most effective thing. Because if you love writing programs, it might take you a while, but if you love it, you love touching it around the edges and changing this and changing that, don't give that up. Give up the things that are taking energy away from you. So yeah, I'd do the two lists and then try and outsource the list that takes energy away.
Yeah, I love that idea. The idea of kind of checking in with yourself, right? Understand what you love to do, what you don't love to do. I don't think enough people do that, actually. And it would expose a lot of opportunities, right? And AI can fill some of those gaps for sure. So that's a great point. Tim, how are you kind of seeing AI being used, and like, do you have any go-to tools since you're getting deeper into it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the classics. GTP4 is one of the go-tos. I also like the tools that allow me to transcribe and summarize and then have actionable next steps. So whether I'm in conversations, obviously you need to make sure that you have permission of the individuals who are in those conversations. But we generally record our Zoom meetings and then they'll be transcribed. But it's not only the transcription, but it also do a full summary, key points, and next steps. So you can imagine as a coach, like I use that personally in my role, but you can also imagine as a coach, like how useful that would be when you're having a dialogue with your clients. I would say from a thought partnership perspective, I've shared that. Anytime I'm trying to do any kind of ideation, I'm struggling with a problem, I'm looking for different kinds of opportunities. I literally just jump in there and just have a dialogue. What do you think about X? What would you do and why? What am I missing? What should I be thinking about? Just because we can't know what we don't know, and we can't unknow what we know. But now you have a tool when you think about kind of heuristics, biases that can impact our decision making. You now have something that can actually help you as you go through these and challenge you in different ways and pose different questions and just make you a better overall thinker. And then the last part is analysis. The analysis capabilities of GTP are off the charts. And so whether you have like client information, I've used it personally. I put all my blood testing results in there. I put in my genetic results. I know people might be like, "Oh, it's crazy on the privacy thing." It's everybody's individual choices. I'm not saying everyone should do it. I'm just saying this is stuff I've done, and just had some fantastic insights coming out of that have prompted me to think about what I'm doing. But in general, you can use that and blind the data. Anonymize your data and get some tremendous insights on your clients and what they might be struggling with and how you might help them. So a number of different ways. As I said, my main one is GTP. Perplexity AI is another fantastic one that we've started to use too as well. So yeah, those are the main ones I would say in terms of where my head's at.
Yeah, you know what? That's so powerful. So basically you're talking about using it as a key input point in your life. Like, aside from all the other stuff you use, all the other things you look at, you now have this other input point, which is the sea of information. And you're asking it questions to kind of articulate a different perspective, different answers, ask different questions of yourself. Very, very cool. That's great. And so, all right, big question for both of you. So, where do you see AI going in the personal training or fitness industry? And Tim, maybe I'll let you go first.
Yeah. If I were to step back and scope out, we talked about the very start of this call, information. There's so much information out there, and one of the disadvantages actually we were talking about earlier on is like this is even creating an explosion of more ways or different ways people are sharing information. But if you sit back and say, okay, how do you help people cut through the clutter and figure out what to do next? This is where I see AI in our space going, is where you've got all your client insights. Maybe you use intakes. Maybe they're using devices. Maybe they're using or have different health records, health testing of all different kinds of types. So there are a whole bunch of various inputs coming in that can inform an analysis. And then these tools can help you analyze the individual in front of you in ways that are just not possible with the human mind. Make recommendations about what potential pathways that you might explore, and make recommendations on also how you may engage this individual in a very deeply personal way. And then you as a coach are the implementer, the executor, the kind of chief care officer, where you're paying full attention to the client and helping them unlock and make progress at a level in a way that just simply wasn't possible before, because you could personalize things in a way that wasn't possible before. From a biological perspective, from a sociological perspective, from a psychological perspective, you can now be a full comprehensive coach and just be there for the client. That's where I kind of see it going. All this information's coming in, it's getting distilled down, very clear recommendations are being proposed. You choose which ones, how to implement, and then you go and implement as a coach.
Awesome. So you see this kind of idea of a recommendation engine being the biggest push forward in the fitness industry, which I think carries a lot of weight for sure. And what about you, Daniel? What do you think?
Again, you have to forgive me being a maybe a bit old school, and this might come back and bite me. I look at things like what happened in the lockdowns when everything went digital and we were all doing calls like these actually and Zooms and so on and so forth. And in the fitness industry, everything went online. And then in April 2021, and I know this because the business we originally launched was for digital classes, and what we saw was this massive stampede, and I'm sure you guys saw the same thing, people wanting to be back in person, back in the gym. And I look at probably one of the fastest growing sports being like CrossFit, and then there's the High Rocks, and all of the tech in these businesses is none. You go to a CrossFit box and you like, sometimes there'll be a system to book and stuff, but it's like whiteboard and pen and chalk and dust, and it's and I'm not the fitness industry is rooted in this sort of older school way, and I think the people who are at the heart of it, the consumers, I think the trend of wearables has been amazing, and most people, even if whether you're doing CrossFit or you're doing Ironman or whatever you're doing, you're tracking something these days, and I think wearables is a breakthrough, and I think online coaching is a breakthrough, but at its heart it's quite impersonal, and it's a bit sort of like human centric and a bit old school. And that's why when I think about the future of AI within the fitness industry, I think about it less as consumers and trainers and coaches, and I think about it more businesses that sit in the middle. So how do businesses support trainers and coaches or support clients with all the things you've mentioned there, Tim, like gathering all, I don't see a future where we have 1.5 million personal trainers sat gathering data and figuring it all out themselves and using AI to give their clients a better experience. What I see is logging in and having a business get built specifically that gets the information so the trainer can benefit on the other side of it. So I think the rise of businesses in this space who can sort of help the fitness industry move along, less at the fingertips of the individuals and more behind the scenes. And that's where I think the biggest breakthroughs and the biggest developments will come. And people will still be slapping chalk on each other's back in 50 years' time, chucking a barbell around. It's but yeah, that's the way I would see it.
It's a great point, Dan. I'm heading to do some sparring tonight. I'm not going to be able to do that through my computer or anything, like I got to be with people. It's, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, the element of the human experience, I don't think is going anywhere. I agree with that too. But with AI becoming more mainstream, right? What advice do you guys have for fitness coaches, looking to gain a competitive advantage, right? So Daniel, maybe you can speak to that a little bit.
I mentioned it earlier. It's use it as a way to just get rid of stuff that you don't like doing. That getting that list down and all of the administrative things like that. That's an advantage because each trainer and each coach has their own set of experiences and their own set of opportunity areas. And if every trainer went out and used AI to create content, then all of a sudden they all lose their edge. People who really can't think or create content, AI is a great outlet for it. Some people are just bloody fantastic at it, and they will beat the algorithm, being themselves, face the camera, than any AI is going to be able to do. So, really play to your strengths, like sit down and really think about, what do I love doing? What am I good at? What am I not good at? What do I hate doing? And yeah, lean into that area. And if it's something you hate doing that is really important, top of the list. Find a way of using AI to sort of do that, and you will massively increase the scope of your business, I think.
Yeah, Dan, that approach is just it's a great approach for life, to be honest. Like if you start going through that exercise and AI being a tool, it can impact not only like professionally, personally, so many different ways. So again, guys, this has been such a powerful discussion. So thank you both so much. Tremendous, tremendous insights. I know the audience is going to want to learn more about each of you. So maybe you can tell them where they can find you and connect. So maybe Dan, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Appreciate that, Fad, and it's been a genuine pleasure. I've really enjoyed chatting through this with both of you guys. So you can find us on Instagram is probably the best place. So at this.is.fortis. Apologies for the full stops there. That's what happens when you're late to the party with your Instagram handle. You can find us there, or you can find me at Daniel.Stott. I was a bit earlier to the party, so only one full stop there.
Awesome. How about you, Tim?
So for myself, you find me more businessy, I guess, on LinkedIn. I don't. I have an Instagram profile. It's at Timothy Jones. But I don't really actually use it very much. So right, wrong, or indifferent. And for PN, precisionnutrition.com.
Awesome. Love it. Well, we're definitely set up for an exciting future with AI in the fitness industry. And again, tremendous insights. So thank you all for joining our discussion. And
thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Have a great one, guys.